The nature of ghostwriting. I love the term. It showed up in the Mod Squad today. And the way I took it is the way that I take it. By the way, my name is Mr. 2020. You're listening to the Free Neville Goddard podcast, or listening to a chapter in the book project. Let's dive in. Your job here isn't to push. Your job here isn't to persist. Your job here is not to make something happen. Your job here is not to be determined to make something happen to the point where you feel defeated, that it may or may not happen when and where you want it to. And yet I look around and that's how most people live, even my clients. And I love you too much to just let you sit there. Because being determined and being defeated is an addiction. It's the same as drinking way too much and then suffering for the next 3 days. Getting all wound up on determination and then being sick from being defeated because it didn't work out exactly how you wanted, when you wanted it to, who you wanted it to be with. In other words, if you're seeking happiness out there, in other words, if you're living from, I need this first so I can have what I want later, in other words, a beer so I can talk to a pretty girl, or angry so I can take action. I just wrote something really cool on that. Believe me, I'm going to close all these loops. This is really good shit. So this morning I wrote about anger. And according to my friends in Chinese medicine, and I've talked to some very fascinating people in that field, and I have an ancient text from I've been told it's from the 1600s. Bought it on eBay for $35. It's really cool. It's on rice paper and everything. At least that's what I think. But I've shown it to people who are in the know, and they shook when they looked at it. They've all asked to borrow it. I promise I'll get it back. Yeah, not a chance. You can look at it now. Right? I'm not handing it over. Period. But I seem to digress. Ready? So I wrote about anger today, and anger in Chinese medicine is the energy of work. But when it becomes an emotional, it starts to dictate your thinking, and then angry thoughts pollute everything that you have and do. In other words, your lovely coffee cup is now full of cat shit. Now, anger comes along because we blame. Now, I can blame things. I'm sure you can blame things and or people too. I'm sure you can blame what's coming in the future on the past. I just put into the article that I wrote, believe me, I'm going to get back to ghostwriting in a moment. But I put into the article I wrote a Confucius quote that I saw online the other day. And basically it goes something like that. He who blames others, right? Well, then there's he who blames himself, right? And then there's he who doesn't blame anyone or anything. That's called freedom. You get to end the blame game so you can participate in the now. The blame game has you just going back to when I was 4, when I was 8. 40 years ago you said this. 4 months ago I wanted this and it didn't happen. The blame game is endless and incestuous. It gives birth to shit that shouldn't be given birth to. But let's get back to it. Ready? Anger is the energy of work. But when you whenever it becomes an emotional, in other words, blame shows up, then you start telling endless stories of defense and offense. And you can defend yourself, you can attack yourself, you can defend and attack other people. And life becomes the war again. Instead of using the energy for work, you're losing it in a battle. And this is a good definition of work. To get work done, to make this podcast, this episode of the book, it takes energy. The energy of the element of wood. The energy of anger. The energy of striking forth, moving forward. Have you noticed when you're angry, here's what happens. People get angry and they want to hit something or throw something. Forward. Right? They want to smash something. Okay, take something out. That is the energy that's designed to build something and to blast through something, to move you through something. The most productive thing I ever did when it came to anger is letting it be an energy, not buying into the story. If the story is, what you did or didn't do made me mad, what I did or didn't do made me mad, you've just sold the pearl of great price. You're blaming what isn't responsive. What's responsive is you. And it's time to end the emotion and the thinking about anger. But let's get back to ghostwriting. Because this shows up while I'm in Twilight this morning. Twilight this morning defined as Joseph Goddard time. I'm imagining a couple things today. I've got a live call today. I've got some stuff to write today. Every day, right, pretty much every single day, I do some live time with people. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a half an hour, sometimes it's just a few minutes here and there. But every day it's live time. Some days it's a group call. I love those. But I'm in my Joseph Goddards and I'm imagining up specific events of my day having gone my way. That's the whole thing behind that. Specific events of today. Stuff on my calendar, stuff I know I will do. I will imagine having had gone my way. I make no exceptions to this. And I seem to digress again. Because ghostwriting. So I imagine having had written something really cool this morning. In other words, I settled down into that feeling of accomplished and satisfied. And once I settle down into that, I find myself opening up. You plant a seed and out comes a plant and opens up a flower. And the flower and the leaves, they open up to the sunshine and the bees. In other words, the dance of life. And so I settle down into this feeling of accomplished and satisfied, which has me open up to what gets to flow through me. I open up to what gets to show up. And what shows up is, there's 3 levels to anger. There's the energy, there's the emotionalism, and then there's the thoughts. And you're never going to change the thoughts. The thoughts feel like concrete. They feel true. They feel heavy. To back out of there, you get to remember thoughts are developed by a process called thinking. They're not real. They actually don't have any weight. They are produced by a process called thinking. Thinking comes from your emotions. Your emotions determine how you think. Your emotions come from your state. And your state commands everything. Energy is an infinite response to your state. But you can abandon your state by going, who shall I blame? Me or them? What shall I blame? Something that's already in existence. Your awareness of being is God. You are how God has the adventure of a lifetime. So I don't know when you're reading this or when you're listening to this. Like I said, it's going to be the podcast today and the book today. So my crass commercial is joinremarkable.com. That's one word, joinremarkable.com. We're exploring all kind of cool shit there you can get confused with. This is not the same as the one we did last year or the year before that or the year before that. There's different people and we're doing different stuff. Anyway, joinremarkable.com. That's one word. Go there for details. The other offer that I've got today, go to dreamdrivenday.com. One of 2 things you'll see there. One, that we're offering Dream Driven Day, which right now we're not. We may be when you listen to this. I don't know. When you listen to this. But if you go to dreamdrivenday.com right now, we're offering something brand new. It's called the Destiny Project. Your destiny is something that pulls you forward, that draws you in. When you discover what pulls you forward and what draws you in, when you explore the process of being pulled forward and drawn in, you're going to stop pushing and persisting. You're going to stop ranting and resisting. When you stop pushing and persisting, ranting and resisting, guess what happens? You do discover you are how God has the adventure of a lifetime. And you do discover that you give life to not just one destiny, but multiple destinies. And you'll discover that determination and defeatism both work against you. Because the more determined you are to make something happen, the more you have to admit that it hasn't and that you're not. And then defeatism shows up. It's a vicious cycle that happens whenever you blame physicality or mentality or what they did or yourself. You can blame or you can be responsive. Being responsive requires that you open up. And when you open up, it's pretty damn cool. Because when I stop blaming her, when I stop blaming you, when I stop blaming me, that's when the ghostwriting happens. I open up to the dynamic experience of me. And the ghost writes. This is none of what I say. None of what I write is stuff that I figure out. It's what I notice in the moment from the truth that sets us free. I've done some crass commercials. You can act on them if you want to. Some people get angry that I do crass commercials. They really do. And I ask them to notice. Right? Does the truth anger you? Or the crass commercialness? Hint, it's neither. What angers you is the story that you've accepted as true about you that has you blaming me or you or what happened or the way things are, Mr. 20. Get hungry, reach forward, eat what's on the plate, have a lovely day. Dive deeper, soar higher. See ya.